Thank you so much, guys, for joining me today. It's an honor to speak with you. I'm so excited that you have a new album, The Neon, coming out very soon. And it connotes a lot of visuals for me. When I think neon, I think, Vegas, red light district, clubs, kind of a sleazy, retro, futuristic all at once. And I know you had a real strong vision for what the neon means. So can you explain to me what your vision of this world you created is?
Well, for me, apart from being a huge fan of non-stop erotic cabaret from by Soft Cell, which was all about the neon anyway, and Soho. For me, it's kind of, where we did the photo shoot in God's own junkyard was like this neon graveyard. It's almost like that place outside of Las Vegas where they put all the used neon. And but for me, it's more about like being in maybe a Mediterranean old port. So you have these like white walls or like stone walls or stone roads with a neon sign on the wall. So it kind of like looks, it's ancient but modern at the same time. And it's neon is kind of is like a 50s invention, I think. It's probably even earlier, I'm sure, for advertising. But yeah, I love the softer colors. I love the blues and the pinks. And yeah, so for me, it's just that you surround me experience.
And Vince, do you have anything to add to that? Like what the neon means to you? I know you used a lot of like kind of older analog equipment, I believe, and stuff of this. Maybe was conjuring that sound. Can you talk about that?
Like the thing that the title conjures up for me actually is back in the day when Berlin was cut off from the rest of the world. You used to drive through this thing called the corridor, or catch the train from Hamburg, and the whole of it's in the middle of East Germany, and so the whole of East Germany would be completely dark, and then suddenly you'd see these amazing lights, and it would be Berlin, West Berlin, because they used to make it as bright and as colourful and as attractive as possible, in order to make people from East Germany believe that they were missing out on something. And I don't know, there's something about that. It's like a shining light, it's like a beacon of light, a beacon of hope, or not, a beacon of prosperity.
Yeah, yeah.
But there's, I don't know, it's that's what, whenever I think of neon, that's the first image that comes to my mind.
Interesting. So some of the early reviews for the music that's been put out there from the neon is sort of saying it harkens back to earlier Erasure, and I mentioned the use of analog equipment. Hey, my cat's very interested in this interview. She's a fan. But I'm wondering if there was any, I don't get the impression either of you are particularly nostalgic people, but is there a nostalgia to this record or any attempt to sort of go back to your roots, or did that kind of happen accidentally? What are your thoughts on that?
For me, it was kind of like, we didn't know it was going to happen, but I kind of have this instinctive feeling that in somehow it was kind of reconnecting with that, with being a teenager myself, and the excitement of when you are a teenager and you're going out for the first time and buying records, so exciting. It's like really exciting. And the sounds that you hear, I wasn't particularly a punk. I was kind of a soft punk. That's why I veered towards Blondie and Susie and the Banshees and stuff, and Yaz, and but kind of once I'd heard electronic music, that's it. It just grabbed me. It was kind of, and I think when you're at a certain age, you're kind of susceptible to this. It's kind of like whatever happens to you at that age, like 15, basically puberty. That this electronic sound just completely overtook my sensibilities, my body, whatever, and I rehearsed to Yaz, to Upstairs at Eric's, and I love Eurythmics, I love the Tourists, and I just wanted to kind of like capture that kind of essence of newness, really. And I think now you don't really hear it. You kind of, I mean, to be honest, I don't listen to kind of top 40 pop radio, you know, but you never seem to hear. I mean, it's so crowded, everything, that you never kind of hear something that's. I think Vince is so great in how he presents a line in a way that's kind of held up in the song, you know, or you kind of it becomes instantly recognizable as him, you know, and that's it really. It's like, you know, I was thinking of B-52's "Give Me Back My Man."
Mm.
I
Love
love
that
the
song.
single, like one of their sort of comeback singles, you know, and I loved it. And I think when I first heard the demos of what Vince had created, I don't know how long it took him, maybe, I don't know, 3/4 of a year or something. It was just, I thought, wow, that's right, that he's totally got it. We didn't talk about anything. You know, we hadn't discussed, had we?
No.
We hadn't discussed what of a direction or anything. You know,
So,
just like, sorry.
no, go ahead, please. Sorry.
No, it was just, you know, when I heard the demos of Vince, which are almost identical to the finished tracks, I couldn't believe it. It was like that thing that I wished for was there right in front of me.
So I don't mean to put you guys on the spot, but since you were talking about Andy used to audition or used to try practice to Yaz and stuff. I'd love for you to tell me about when you auditioned for Erasure, because yeah, my understanding is, you know, Vince was already a hero of yours and you were a fan of his work, obviously, in his previous very iconic group. So Vince, tell me about when Andy tried out. And I understand you used to rehearse to Susie as well. I'm a big Susie fan, so very cool.
Well, we were doing. I was working with a producer called Flood in London, in Soho in London, and you know, I'd done a couple of projects. They weren't really bands; they were projects. And the producer that I was working with said, "Look, you know, you've got to. Why don't you find someone permanent, you know, to work with?" And so Flood and I held auditions over 2 days in London. We did an advertisement in one of the music papers, and Andy answered that advertisement and came along. I think on day 2, I think we'd listened to 40 or 50 people at that point, and we had a couple of songs that I'd written, and the idea was that the person would come in, they'd have, you know, a couple of minutes to hear the songs, and then to sing those songs, and we'd record them, and then we'd hopefully work out, you know, this person any good or not. Yeah, anyway, so Andy came along to one of the auditions, and both Flood and I said, yeah, this bloke sounds pretty good.
Pretty good.
Yeah. Let's make a record together.
Well, Andy, you tell me about it, because as I mentioned, I know that you were already a fan of Vince's previous work. What did the ad say? Did it say Vince Clarke? Did you know what you like?
No, it said established songwriter looking for versatile singer. That was it.
Wow.
So, and it was just picked out. It was just like 2 little lines, you know, in between all this other stuff going on. And I mean, I know it's a bit mad, but it was like Vince was one of the first famous people that I'd seen in London, because I went for a previous audition for a Bow Wow Wow spin-off band, and it happened to be at Blackwing Studios, which Vince used to half own with Eric Radcliffe from Yazoo, who produced Yazoo. So I went into this audition, and then I saw Vince on the Space Invaders machine with his big fringe hanging down, and I was like, oh my God, that's like Vince Clarke, you know. And I don't think it was that, but it kind of like that kind of cemented in my mind just this. I don't know, you know, when the assembly was happening and Yaz had disbanded, I thought, well, maybe I should write Vince Clarke a letter, just like as a fan, and say, would you be looking for a new singer by chance at all, you know? And so I used to rehearse along to these records, honestly, and to Alf, her solo records. And one of my flatmates said, "Oh, that's going to be you in 1 year's time." Right. And then once when I phoned up on the advert and they said, "Well, if we don't find anybody this weekend, we'll call you back." And I thought, well, they won't call me back. And then they called me back on Monday and they said, "Can you come down?" I said, "Yes." And they said, "Do you know who Vince Clarke is?" And I was like, "Whoa, like what? Too much, you know." So I was going screaming around the house and stuff, got myself together and, you know, went there. And I was just going to enjoy myself, whatever, you know, because it was like I was going in the studio, I was singing with Vince Clarke, singing one of his songs, you know. And then, I mean, I can't believe my kind of audacity, really, because my self-belief, you know, because when I hear the demos now of those audition tapes, they're so naive, you know, they're so kind of like, I mean, they're okay, but I just thought like, wow, like you know, what got me the job, really, you know? I don't know if it's because I was the youngest person or whatever, but, you know, and then they called the next day and they said, "Would you like to work with Vince?" And I was like, hallelujah. You know?
What an amazing story. Well, Vince, what did get him the job? You said like, I mean, you said, "Oh, that guy's all right," but you said there were like 40, 50 people auditioned, probably some people with more experience as well. Like, what was it that made you pick
You
Andy?
know, I think, I mean, Andy does have a very distinctive voice, and we were looking for someone that could sing with emotion and bring some emotion to the songs. I mean, I'm a very kind of cold writer in a way, and you know, when you've got, we were looking for someone that could bring some soul to the songs, I think, and Andy brought that instantly, and also it was instant. It wasn't like it was something you worked up to. He just had like 2 minutes to learn those songs, you know,
Wow.
and he decided then and there that what his interpretation of those songs was going to be, and then he just delivered. I mean, we didn't give people like 2 goes, you know what I mean? It was just the 1 go, and we recorded them. It was instant.
Wow.
And
Were
then, you
you,
know, I mean, only after we, you know, we started and got to know each other did we actually form a relationship.
I could see Vince and Flood looking at each other, but I kind of couldn't work out. I sort of got the vibe that they were, you know, there was a spark there, but you couldn't really work it out until they called me.
well, Vince, I'm curious if you were aware or when you became aware of the fact that Andy had been such a fan before, that he had this, his roommate had a premonition. I don't like how long. It sounds like Andy kept it pretty together.
No, he didn't. He didn't mention that. He didn't mention. I mean, we recorded our first album at Trident Studios, which was Wonderland, and we were there for about a year, really messing about. And Andy never said anything.
It was so extravagant. It was right.
He didn't say a thing. He was so shy. It was painful.
It was really, really painful, like my shyness, and I couldn't. I mean, I know Vince's guy as well, you know, but I just kind of like because in some way I couldn't believe it. You know, it was like a dream, and I could not believe that I was actually there in the studio with Vince. That sounds like arsey, but it's it's God's honest truth. But there was this guy over there, like Vince Clarke, sitting over there, and I was just like staring at him the whole time. You know, he could have thought I was like a psycho killer or anything, you know. But I mean, they were trying so hard to like make me feel comfortable and tell me jokes and things like that, you know. And I think I reverted back to my choir boy and went into my shell, and they sort of coaxed me out of it slowly, especially on Ola Moore.
Yeah.
Vince, when did you find out or figure out like that? You know, I don't know if did you actually ever write the letter? Like, does Vince have this letter that Andy? Like, when did you put it all
Oh
together?
no, I didn't actually write the letter. That's
Oh,
kind of that's a bit of a myth that I actually wrote the letter.
okay.
But I never ever put pen to paper to ask.
It would be cute if you had. It would
It
be
would.
cute.
Maybe I should just do one and pretend.
You could write it now.
Sell it.
I feel like this should be a movie, actually. Like, have you guys ever, either of you ever thought of doing a biopic or an autobiography or anything like that? Memoir?
Or I don't know. It'd be quite funny. I always find them quite. I don't know. I know. I loved the Madonna one with her band Breakfast Club. I thought that was amazing. That one.
That was, yeah.
But and it kind of, and I had no idea of that history that she was in a band and all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of gives some credence, to her. But yeah, I don't know. I think I don't know. It kind of, it's always sort of wrong. It's like always when they try and kind of recreate the fashions and things, they just get it right off.
Yeah, they get the wigs wrong. And if you get the wigs wrong, it's all over. If you get the wigs wrong. Well, I'm curious because we went down a bit of memory lane from it, talking about, how you guys got together, and it's a very cute story, as I said. And, obviously, Vince, you were in 2 other very iconic, very important bands, but those were shorter lived. And this one is going on 30 years. And I'm curious, obviously you had chemistry from the start, and I'm curious, what has been the secret to this, very long running partnership?
Well, I think the fact that, from the very beginning, we pretty much shared everything, especially the songwriting. I think that was really important. I think one of the things that splits bands the most is people being jealous of songwriting royalties, actually. And Andy has this massive talent for songwriting that I tapped into. It's he comes from a much rawer beginnings. I think. I mean, I'm much more of a planner, schemer. Let's do this, let's do that. Andy is a natural songwriter, a natural melody person, and so we pretty much from the beginning started writing songs together. And I think that's been one of the reasons why we've stayed together so long. But as we've got to know each other and, our lives have developed and our relationships developed, I think it's more about respect for each other's, respect for what we do, respect for how we are, respect for our views, respect for, ourselves. I think that's really important, and is a best friend. So,
Aww.
Well, and that's really unusual. I think
It is
in a pop band.
I'm curious, since you mentioned that at that time you were working on different projects, and someone was like, "Oh, maybe you should get a permanent singer." You'd had several bands before. Did you expect that Erasure was going to be, 18 albums in, or did you think this was just going to be yet another, one of the many things on your resume?
For me, what happened was we made the first record, we made the first album together. It took quite a long time to do. I myself had the most fun ever making a record on that one record. And the record company were really pissed off because it took so long and it didn't really sell many copies. So, so we decided then, it was like, okay, the radio's not playing this. The only way that we can get this music heard is by playing live. So then we just toured massively. We played every shitty club in England and in America, I think, and in Germany. And that's the thing that really pulled us together, because when you're out there on your own and you're fighting for your cause and you're the only people who believe in it, it's just me and him going, yeah, we're really great, No one else is. That really I think pulls the band together.
Andy, what are your memories of those times? You had this dream gig, in Erasure, but I only kind of relatively recently realized that it wasn't like an immediate hit thing, because I grew up in LA, so like Erasure were on K-Rock like all the time. Like L'Amour was like on every out, like it was on all the time. But I was not aware until later that it had maybe been a more slower thing to get to the success. So what are your memories of like those of that? Were you like concerned that this wasn't going to work out?
Yeah, I was a bit concerned, because I mean, luckily L'Amour was the saving grace, and I mean, Vince was very generous. We had. I mean, he'd written all the songs. I was the guest singer,
Oh.
and there was one song, Oh L'Amour, and we couldn't think of a chorus, and I just said to Vince, just call it Oh L'Amour, and that was it. And he gave me 50% of the writing just for those two words, and I was
great beginning of this partnership.
Wow, yeah, and then fortunately, it was like a hit in like Australia, France, and a few little places, but I really believed, the record company was going to say, no, Vince, this hasn't worked out.
Yeah.
Try another thing. And so, I mean, I'm kind of Taurian, so I'm devoted. Once someone's shown their admiration or their respect for me, that's it. I'm a friend for life, and so that's what Vince showed to me by sticking by me and us going out together. Even my parents, they said, well, if this doesn't work out, are you going to get a proper job? And I was just like, Mom, that's not what it's about. It's about us just being together and going out and playing these shows, and that's what I want my life to be. And it's like, and we were very lucky. We were so lucky. And I mean, I think Vince is, he does have the Midas touch. He does, and he's very humble. He's really, really humble. And I'm not saying that's why I wanted to work with him, but it's true. It's kind of with the best songs and not ego. It's kind of we both had our moments during all the years,
Oh.
But I think each one of us has allowed the other one to spout off, and then just brought them back down again.
I know we're talking about how you don't have egos, but I do for a moment want to speak with you, Andy. I have a book that's called The 50 Most Important LGBTQ Icons in Music, and you are in it. Of course, you are in it. So from what I recall, you were one of the first out gay people in music that I recall. I mean, there were people like Bronski Beat was another one. Frankie Goes to Hollywood was another one. There were people where you kind of assumed it, like Boy George or whatever, but it wasn't spoke. So I'm curious about was it scary at that time when you were kind of at the forefront of something that was not common, still isn't that common?
I mean, I wouldn't say it was scary, but I would just say it was, for me, it was the necessary thing to do. I felt like it was the right time. There was a gay wave in music, kind of, and also, I don't like lying. I hate lying, So I just I thought, right, well, anybody ask me a question, who's your girlfriend? What type of girls do you like? I say, well, actually, I prefer boys, It's no disrespect to the ladies, but that's just it, And that's how it was. It was just, I mean, I was so amazed how, we had teenage magazines in the UK, like Smash Hits and stuff, asking me, and it was like, and they did features with me, like dressed up in a leotard with ruby slippers, lying on top of the piano, as that's my living room, And I thought that was amazing to show to teenagers.
Yeah.
Well, here's this person, and it's like I have to put my hand up and say, if Jimmy wasn't there, if Jimmy hadn't been there, Jimmy Somerville, and maybe Tom Robinson, I don't know if I would have had the guts to do it. But
really?
I was a foot soldier to their
Have you, well, if they did that for you, have you had any artists say who are a bit younger than you, the next wave, say that you did that for them, that you gave them, that they became your foot soldier?
You know, a little bit. I think from Scissor Sisters, Jake, and maybe who's your friend, Vince? The guy that I did the duet with
Oh, Bright.
yeah, Rod from what's his band?
Oh, Bright Light, Rod Thomas. Yeah, I know him. I know both those people actually. I know Rod. Yeah. Oh, wait, you're on his album, Andy. You sing on his new album, Fun City, that's coming out soon.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very, very, very cool. What do you consider to be Erasure's like best pride anthem or queer anthem?
Well, for me now, it's Nerves of Steel. But
Nice one.
no, I don't know. I mean, it's either has to be Hideaway or Respect.
Have you heard Robbie Williams' cover of A Little Respect? He did it in quarantine.
Yeah, I think he's really good. I really do. I watched his video, and he's like a genuine fan. He's like a genuine Erasure fan, and he's singing this all on his own in his house. And I think he's got a really good voice.
Yeah,
I think he doesn't necessarily have the right songs for his voice, even though he's done incredibly well. It's like.
I'm curious, since you brought up A Little Respect, I have to ask you, I've always wanted to ask you about the video for it. Because the video is great. Like, it's so literal, and it's like so, and there's like sewing and so, like, it's so, I mean, it's hilarious. What was the inspiration behind doing this, like, very kind of like almost like super overly literal video?
It was that, exactly. It was looking at the lyrics going, okay, what does this song, not that what does this song mean, what does this song say? And we talked to the director, and then we tried it. I remember sitting down and working out
in all the words,
different variations of soul.
Yeah.
How could you twist that?
Luckily the Olympics were on weren't they?
That was one of the funny videos. I mean, videos aren't always fun, but that was quite fun to do. I remember.
Oh, it's super fun. I love that video. I don't know if you want to speak about this, Andy. If you don't, it's totally fine. But I interviewed Bernard Rose, who directed last year. I interviewed him last year. He directed the X-rated, or the naughty relax video by Frankie Goes to Hollywood. He also directed Small Town Boy by Bronski Beat. So he's a great, a very iconic director in queer culture. And we were talking a bit about how he thought that queer culture in music was going in a very good direction in the 80s, and then AIDS happened and everything kind of regressed and everything kind of went back in the closet. And I know, as a survivor yourself, I'm curious what your thoughts are on that, because I think you've been a real pioneer in openness, and if you have any thoughts on that.
But it was just really strange, it was just really strange. I think, when and it so happened that Wonderland kind of crossed, I felt like in some ways I kind of not forced Vince, but played a hand in kind of making it maybe a bit more high energy than it necessarily needed to be, because that was like a dying form of music then. It was kind of had come to the end of its reign, really. And I mean, as a young gay man going to Heaven, the nightclub, I didn't understand it, but now I love it. I love the music genre, which nobody even talks about it anymore. But it's, they had the amazing black soul singers, of course, Sylvester, Michael Brown, Marsha Raven, like all these amazing songs. And they made a living out of doing these PAs, like these disco PAs. And I just thought, even that to me was the definition of a diva, like doing these disco PAs, because it's a really tough job, But yeah, I kind of, so at the same time as coming out, and then coming out all around the world and traveling around, I remember maybe one of our first visits to San Francisco and going to Haight and Ashbury, and and thinking like, oh my goodness, it's like a ghost town around here, and that was really that. Like going to the gay capital of the world, and feeling ghosts and feeling that was the death of the clone. You know, it was kind of like starting from scratch. So it was just very important. It was just, you know, it was just really, you know, I always think nature's in control and it's organic, everything, you know. So this gay wave happened for a reason, and it happened to kind of dissipate this AIDS hate that came afterwards, you know. And they've never ever found a cure. There's not a vaccine. You know, we keep talking about COVID. You know, AIDS is another thing altogether, HIV, because it's sexually transmitted. So it's not, you know, they're not going to go near there, you know. And especially the things that we face now with supposedly religious leaders, you know, that are supposedly should embrace everybody, which they don't do, which I find a very sad state of affairs, you know. So really, there was a lot to contend with. You know, there was a lot to contend with. But at the same time, Vince and I had so much fun. You know, we'd be going around, going to these clubs, hearing our remixes. You know, we'd have doing TV shows in Italy with like Jimmy Somerville and people, girls chasing after us in the taxi and saying, "Oh, I come with you," and I say, "No, oh, I'm gay. I don't care. I don't care. I'm coming with you." You know, and it was just crazy. And I just thought, like, I mean, we had this one TV in Italy, and I was wearing a mask, and because I thought it was like Madonna, like "Open Your Heart," and they're all whistling, the audience, and I didn't realise that was their form of booing.
Oh.
So I thought it was cheering, so I was just going, "Yay, hooray!" You know, yeah. So I think it's I think always, you know, if there was homophobia, it sort of like went above my head because I was just kind of having such a good time, you know. It's just like, I think yeah, it was kind of like you were sort of blunted to the whole thing, you know. But you couldn't internalize everything, because it was just too much.
When you came out with your positive status, what was the reaction to it at the time? I think it was 90s.
Yeah, I was really amazed of what it was like, you know. And I remember, you know, at the time, Erasure, you know, we played at the Hammersmith Odeon in London, and the whole audience just like stood up and gave us a standing ovation coming on the stage, you know. And even when I saw Vince with Alison, same thing. When I walked in to see Yaz, the whole audience was just like clapping round, you know. And it's just so, it's like, to me, that's like winning an Oscar or something, you know. It really is that, or that's, I imagine, what the feeling is like, you know.
Do you feel you get proper credit? I mean, I mentioned you're in this book, which I should have had it with me. It's over there. But do you feel you get proper credit as a pioneer in LGBTQ?
To be honest, it used to bother me, but I think that that's part of my lesson, is for it not to bother me. So, and I think, well, you know, I'm a granddad. I'm like a silver daddy. I don't expect young gay people to know who I am. It's like, why should they know? You know, it's like, unless they're into their history and stuff like that. But I think now everything's so immediate, you know. But I mean, it's lovely when people do recognise you. I mean, it's, you know, it's really, I'm really flattered, you know.
Well, I'm curious for you both, and just in general, and I do think a lot of younger artists do recognize your work. But what newer artists, like electronic artists or whatever, do you hear your influence in, or who have told you that you are an influence?
No, I'm not sure that. I'm not sure. I mean, people say sometimes, "Oh, such and such a band sound like you," and I go, I don't hear it at all. You know, just because they're using synthesizers or something, or they're pop bands or something. You know, so I can't say really that there's. Not that I don't listen to new music. I mean, I do listen to quite a lot of new music. My son's been introducing me recently to new electronic music. So that's kind of interesting.
Like what? Anything?
I had no idea that he liked music, you know. So. He certainly doesn't like mine.
Well, you gotta set him straight. Going back to the new album, the Neon. What was influencing you lyrically or otherwise? What was inspiring you? I feel like it's a little less political than the last album was in tone, than World Be Gone was.
Yeah, it's just really, it's honestly a stream of consciousness. That's all that it is. You know, it's kind of it's auto writing. You know, like how they used to do in the fairgrounds. If they're telling you your fortune, you just write down anything that comes to mind. That's right then and there, and then hopefully it makes sense to someone.
Very cool. I'm also curious because even though obviously you're known for what you do, like very iconic sound, you've done a lot of different things over the years. You've done, you know, obviously the ABBA covers album, another covers album. You did a Christmas album, did an acoustic album, which I think surprised a lot of people. Like, what's the next thing after the Neon, of course, that you want to try? Sure, you must have some like other fun ideas that you'd like to get to.
Vince,
Andy,
punk.
punk. Oh, we're going punk. So this is not something I've just heard this minute.
Electro punk. Average BPM 198.
No way. I'm not. No way am I doing songs that fast. No way. No. That's like dubstep or something, you know.
Oh yeah, man, daddy's man.
God help us.
Is there any other artist, like everyone loved ABBA-esque so much, is there any other one artist that if you were going to do like a covers album that was singular artist focused that you would have a go at?
It's either going to be Kate, which I've already done cover version of Breathing, or Eurythmics.
Ooh.
Maybe we're too close with Eurythmics.
I wouldn't turn it down if you did it. I'd be fine with it. It would be fine. Wouldn't complain at all. Well, that's great. Any idea? I think one time, Andy, you said you were. I think I read once that you were doing some kind of theatrical production. I think would there ever be like?
Yeah.
Tell me about that, and if there would ever maybe be like an Erasure musical, like, or something.
Well, this is this guy called Torsten, and he's kind of like he's this mythical, multi-sexual person that lives forever. Basically, he's like 180 years old or something, but doesn't grow older physically. So you know, it's really hard for him. But it just allows me to like say all the F words and the swear words and the, you know, whatever you like, you can do. And Barney Ashton Bullock, the creator, is amazing. He's just like he's crazier than me. So that's kind of quite crazy, you know?
Well, right. Life imitating art imitating life. Would you guys ever do a musical though? I feel like a not rock opera, electro rock opera would be amazing. Obviously I want more stuff from you. So I'm like trying to get some ideas out there.
I don't think we could be in it. We could never be in it. But I mean, again, that's up to Vince as well. I mean, there are some things in the works, but it just depends on how they shape out, you know?
I'll wrap up by saying, obviously you have this new record that's coming out, that the Neon, that everyone's so excited about. What are, touring plans are a little, kind of on hold. Unfortunately, everything's getting canceled, but what are your immediate or semi-immediate future plans?
Well, you're right. We should have been, by rights, we should have actually been in the UK right now touring. That was the plan. And then we would have come to the States. But at the moment, that's all been put back till next year, some point next year, unfortunately. But what we're going to do between now and then, I seriously, I'm going bananas. I don't know what to do. I'm really frustrated, and I don't know. I'm getting a bit depressed about it, to be honest.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You'd sell some bass lines or something, Vince.
Sell some bass lines?
Yeah, for hire. Do like bass lines for hire. Or something,
Maybe I should do a course or something. Maybe I should get a degree in something. In the meantime.
Or do a master class. Like a lot of people actually teach one. Like Danny Elfman is doing one, and there's a few other musicians. Who
Yeah,
are
I've watched a
acting.
few of those. I've signed up to a few of those to watch them actually. The one I really liked was there was a masterclass with Timberlake.
Oh, Justin Timberlake did one?
No, sorry, Timberland.
Timbaland. Oh, that would
Yeah.
actually be pretty interesting.
It's
Yeah.
really funny.
I feel it would be a lot of people would sign with the history you have, Vince. And I don't think there's been like a synthesizer specific masterclass. I feel like a
Yeah,
lot of people would sign up. Just saying.
maybe.
Vince could do amazing stand-up comedy as well. honestly, you would not know it, but he has got the driest humour there's this side of the Sahara.
Andy, I think really seriously, I think you and I should, well, not you and I should, but as an idea, I might maybe if I start putting some tracks together.
Yeah.
I don't mean in the sense of like, oh, let's make a new record, but let's just maybe, get some ideas flowing again. You know what I mean? It might be quite cool, right?
Yeah.
If there's something that like grabs you, if I send you something, it grabs you. Go, oh yeah, I could do something with that. Who knows?
I've got all those other tracks you were working on, Vince.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Like pending me, having a session with the headphones and going deep in there.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that could be fun. Yeah.
Awesome. You heard it here first.
Yeah. No, seriously, I'll do some stuff because I've got to do something. I can't just look after the cat.
Honestly, bass lines, Vince. I'm telling you.
Arpeggios.
Well, I definitely look forward to whatever you guys come up, whatever comes of that. And I'm definitely loving the Neon record so much right now. So I'm very happy to have that to listen to. In the meantime, thank you so much for your time. I've really enjoyed this very wide-ranging conversation. It was a real treat for me. And I hope you guys stay safe where you respectively are and stay happy and all that.
Thank you so much for enjoying it. Thank you. Appreciate it.